Daytime highs tomorrow are going to be warmer than they were today. Your 5-day forecast with your Bay Area weekend in view. It's not going to be a heat wave, but we definitely have some, back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Bill. More now on the breaking news. The protests going on in downtown Oakland. Once again, protesters are facing off with police.
Apparent anarchists here dressed up, covering their faces. A lot of people here. The first thing that they did, I have to tell you, was they came in and pulled down the barricade line that the police had set up blocking the westbound side of 14th here at Broadway. And ever since then, the police, who are armed in their riot gear, they have shields up, they have been announcing on some kind of intercom system they're going to do something. We can't hear from where we are exactly what the police are saying.
You're looking at a live picture from Sky 4, and you can see there are protesters in the streets of Oakland. These are the members of Occupy Oakland, as well as their supporters, as they had attempted to move back toward City Hall from the Oakland Public Library, and it appears they've come to a standstill that looks like a police line. So they're standing there facing one another, and our reporters are on the scene. Kimmy Sakamoto is here in the studio. She's been gathering video online as all of this has been unfolding. Kimmy.
Well, I just found a video on YouTube, so somebody in the crowd...
John, does it seem like the police there are making a stand and do not want them to enter
throwing at the police officers? You can see them in their riot gear. It looks like a shoe was thrown, several other small objects thrown at them. I'm not quite sure where this was taken. There was no information on the YouTube page, but you can see the scene in parts of the city are a little bit chaotic. Police trying to get in control of this area as objects are being thrown at them. I'm going to keep an eye on YouTube and also on Twitter to see if there are any other developments, any pictures, any better video posted online. We'll bring that to you as we get them. Pam?
All right, we've certainly seen a great deal of restraint at this point in light of the developments here this evening. We're going to take a quick break and be right back with more.
What do they have to say if you have?
Well, there really is, although there has been a bit of a disjointed message out here, some people complaining about the war, some people complaining about economic inequality. They really do seem pretty united in getting a voice across about the fact that they believe that they should be able to still occupy Franco Gallo Plaza outside City Hall, no matter what really their message is. So they seem very, very unified in that, and they believe that what the police did this morning was kind of the start of a police state here in the Bay Area, something that they feel very offended by. So that's something that they're really trying to get their message across about right now, out here trying to show that they are still united. They're going to continue this revolution, as they call it. They're going to continue trying to get their messages across, whatever those messages might be.
All right, John, we're going to ask you if you could to stand by right now. We want to go to Amber Lee, who is on the phone. Amber, where are you and what are you seeing?
We're at 14th and Broadway in front of the plaza, Franco Gallo Plaza. We saw San Francisco Sheriff's Department deputies and SWAT police from Palo Alto Police getting their gas masks on. They gave us 5 minutes dispersal order. People are starting to back away, and looks like they're getting ready to fire tear gas. That's what it looks like to us.
So, Amber, just a short time ago, you were telling us that you saw the police firing flash grenades and rubber bullets, and then protesters answering back, throwing garbage cans and paint at police. Have you seen any more of that, or does that seem to have been stopped for now?
It appears to have stopped. What was interesting was as we were walking, when they were marching back here to City Hall, there was an empty parked police patrol vehicle parked over to the side, and I heard some of the protesters urging others to not vandalize the car, and everybody appeared to have listened. They didn't vandalize the police vehicle. They proceeded here to 14th and Broadway, right at the corner of this plaza. They're guarding City Hall, and like I said, we see a lot of sheriff's deputies from San Francisco and the Palo Alto SWAT team here with their gas masks on now, with their shields, I guess prepared to take the next step if they need to. I see also protesters sitting down in the middle of the intersection at 14th and Broadway right now, not moving. There's about I would say maybe 2 dozen, 3 dozen of them at that intersection, I guess, refusing to move.
Okay, so Amber, they've given the 5-minute dispersal order, but from what you can tell and from what we can see here, it looks like not a whole lot of people are dispersing from that area.
I'm sorry, all I could tell you is that there's about 3 dozen sitting on the ground, refusing to leave at that intersection, and we see a lot of police chasing them. But like I said, I heard the dispersal order. There's still people here.
Yeah, we can see a lot of people and people sitting down. Police have given the illegal assembly, and they are subject to arrest if they don't move. It looks like they are
pictures from the ground here. You can see Occupy Oakland protesters and their supporters at a bit of a standstill at this particular moment. The crowd of several hundred had gathered at Oakland Public Library at 14th and Madison about 4 o'clock and then decided to march toward Oakland City Hall. That's where police had torn down the encampment that had been there for a couple of weeks. That was torn down overnight. That upset the Occupy movement, and now those protesters are trying to move back towards City Hall. Things are a bit of a standstill. You see the police line set up there. We have a number of reporters on the scene keeping an eye on developments. We'll get back to you with the very latest after this break. And our developing story as we now approach the 630 block here. Occupy Oakland protesters in a bit of a holding pattern. Police have set up a line of law enforcement. You see them there. They are blocking forward movement of the protesters. Among those protesters is our reporter, J.R. Stone. J.R., can you hear me?
I can't hear you, Pam. In the distance, you can see some of these different officers. They have given the warning. They even have gas masks on at this point that they would use chemical force to get people out of this roadway right here. But many of the people who are in this roadway, let me just walk in the distance and show you that they are now walking down Broadway Street, and they are marching down Broadway Street in the distance. This is a march that looks to have started back up. Yet again, as to whether or not they'll come back to City Hall, it's unclear. But they are now marching in the opposite direction, way off in the distance here, down Broadway. Sam, now back to you.
J.R., so clearly the police have warned that they will be releasing tear gas and that the crowd should disperse?
Well, they used some tear gas like that earlier on another block, and I was on that block, and I can tell you it cleared the street very quickly. But since that time, the crowd has built up, and I'm trying to catch up with the crowd right now, but I'm still a couple hundred yards back because so many people were in that area right outside that plaza there. But people have said they will sit down. They gave warnings. These protesters gave warnings to themselves. They tried to educate other protesters on what to do if your eyes start burning or whatnot. But again, not many of these protesters have anything else other than a handkerchief over their face. Pam?
All right, JR, we'll let you go ahead and try and catch up with the protesters as they now move back away from City Hall on Broadway. Let's go over to Charles Clifford, who at last check was at 14th and Broadway. Charles, are you still at that same location?
Yeah, we're still at 14th Street and Broadway, and as JR just said, the bulk of the protesters have moved east up Broadway away from this intersection. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit here and show you that the sheriff's deputies and the police officers who are still standing around. Right now, actually, they're across 14th Street. There was a metal barrier up earlier. They've taken that down. There was an officer on a loudspeaker warning people there would be arrests and possibly a physical confrontation if they didn't disperse. And it appears that for the most part, the protesters have done that. They've now moved away down Broadway Street, as JR was saying. But there's still a couple hundred people hanging out here, kind of watching to see what happens. Matter of fact, we're all kind of waiting to see where this goes, how it kind of develops. But for now, it looks like everyone has moved, or almost everyone has moved off to the east on Broadway.
Charles, this is not a hostile crowd at this point where you are?
No, I would say no. It's I mean, there's a lot of people. They're being very vocal, but for the most part, it's not hostile. They're just there's some drum beating, there's some chanting, but for the most part, they're very peaceful. Very peaceful.
Are the numbers growing, or do you feel that some of the protesters are beginning to leave?
I would say that it's growing. I would say a couple thousand people. It's a little hard to gauge because I'm at ground level and I'm right at an intersection, so they're kind of spread out in all four directions from where I am. But I would say several thousand.
All right, we've been hearing several hundred. We'll trying to get some firmer numbers, but thank you for that update, Charles Clifford. Kimmy Sakamoto has been gathering some information. She's here in the studio with more. Kimmy.
Well, I've been keeping an eye on Twitter, and it appears as though the protesters are trying to warn each other that they need to get out of the areas to not come down and protest. This person tweets, "It's about to jump off. The cops gave protesters 5 minutes to leave or risk injury. Marchers are outside Francogoa Plaza right now." And another person tweets what OPD had apparently told them: if you refuse to move, chemical agents will be deployed. And one more right here. This person tweets, "Officers say if you stay, regardless of your purpose, you will be arrested." So you can see protesters taking to Twitter, trying to tell each other, you know, it's time to get out possibly right now. Police are giving us an ultimatum. I also want to show you a picture. We showed you a YouTube video a little bit earlier of protesters surrounding police, throwing items at them. And here in this picture, I don't know if you can see on the left-hand side, the officer on the left, it appears as though paint had been thrown on him. His helmet is covered on the left-hand side with blue and green paint, and the paint is splattered down the back of his shirt. I'm going to keep an eye on Twitter and YouTube and try to find the latest pictures and videos for you. We'll bring that up to you soon.
All right, Kimmy, thank you. As I've been saying, we have a number of reporters in the area of this demonstration. Let's check in now with Jeff Bush on the phone. Jeff, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, Pam. Right now I'm walking with a large group that is walking down Telegraph Avenue right now towards Berkeley in that general direction. And as Kimmy told you, it was a really tense standoff here about a few minutes ago there at Francogoa Plaza. Police did threaten to use chemical agents if people refused to move. At one point in time, people sat down in the middle of the street. But collectively, they all decided that it wasn't worth it, and they left Francogoa Plaza, and now I'm with the group of protesters, and we are all headed north on Telegraph and currently at 19th Street. In 19th Street here in Oakland. I have seen no violence, actually. There was a police car that was left out by itself. One person did try and kick the car, and then another one of the protesters actually stepped in and stopped them. So there's definitely an ethos here that seems to be prevailing. There's, for lack of a better word, cooler heads are prevailing amongst the group, as far as I've seen so far. The night is really young right now, though, so we all know that things have been out of control. But right now, I haven't seen any signs of violence or property damage so far from this group, Pam.
Well, Occupy across the country has really stressed to all of its supporters that they want to stay peaceful, and hopefully that will be the case here through Oakland tonight. Do you have a sense of who's leading them as they move on these different streets? Are there leaders who are saying, well, now let's go this way?
No, it's not quite like that. It's more like somebody has the idea and then somebody else agrees, and then the group it doesn't stick very closely together. I think it's a very leisurely pace that everybody is taking. They're walking at a slow pace, which means that the group is spread out over the course of several city blocks, and that seems to be the case right now. As far as the leadership, I don't think that there is any, but as I spoke before, there are people who I have witnessed that seem to be taking the role of peacekeeper, if you will, people who are reminding their counter-protesters or their co-protesters, reminding their friends here not to be violent and not to be breaking things. And so they seem to be there is some sort of organization when it comes to that.
How would you describe the police presence where you are on Telegraph at 19?
Okay, we have just actually taken a right on 19th, so that's eastbound on 19th, and the group is turning back towards Broadway. The group is turning now to the south on Broadway. The group, your question was about police. There are no police right now. I don't believe that there are any police that are following us or ahead of the group. Right now, as I mentioned, the group is just walking through the street, and I've actually seen people directing traffic sometimes. It's a little bit different than what we've seen before. But right now, the police seem to be occupied with keeping people away from Franco Gala Plaza, and as we mentioned earlier in this program, over by City Hall, by the police headquarters. So right now, no police walking around with the protesters, just media and a lot of people walking down Broadway.
And Jeff, no traffic is able to move in this area, obviously.
Yeah, that's correct. But the wandering notion, or the wandering nature of this group has made it to where traffic cannot pass, obviously, when people are going through the street, and then the end will come, and then traffic opens back up again. So there's no organization to the traffic stoppage. But it is definitely affecting traffic. If I were to give advice, I would say if you're driving, do not come down here. Do not come anywhere near downtown Oakland, because you could get yourself stuck in any number of traffic jams.
All right. That's Jeff Bush reporting, now back on Broadway. Again, most of downtown Oakland is tied up. You see some cars moving through, but the protesters are scattered about on a number of streets and a number of locations. Police still largely in the area of City Hall, and things are quieting down, but it's not over. We're not sure what the protesters plan to do next. We'll give you more information after the break.